Have you ever felt like your voice didn't matter? That even if you spoke up, no one would listen? Mayleigh felt the same way. She struggled in both her personal and professional life, always afraid to speak her mind. But one day, something changed, and her life was never the same. This is Mayleigh's journey to confidence and the power of her words. Mayleigh worked in a fast-paced corporate office, where her boss, Mr. Bennett, had a habit of calling people out in front of the entire team. One day, he scolded her for missing a deadline, his voice sharp and cutting. She wanted to explain, to tell him she had asked for clarification but hadn't received it, but instead, she froze. The words just wouldn't come. She nodded quietly, apologized, and sat down, feeling small and defeated. Inside, her thoughts were screaming, "Why do I keep letting this happen?" That evening, Mayleigh stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. She thought about how she had once been outspoken in college, unafraid to debate ideas or ask questions in class. Where had that confident version of herself gone? The realization hit her hard. Over the years, she had let fear creep in, fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being wrong. But deep down, she knew something had to change. She couldn't keep living like this. Later that night, Mayleigh confided in her best friend, Lisa. They sat on Mayleigh's couch, the hum of the city outside filling the silence as Mayleigh poured out her frustrations. "I feel invisible," she said. "At work, with my family, it's like my thoughts don't matter. Even when I want to say something, I just don't." Lisa nodded thoughtfully and replied, "Mayleigh, your thoughts do matter. But people can't hear them if you keep them locked away. It's not about being loud. It's about being clear and intentional." Lisa handed Mayleigh a book about having crucial conversations. The title alone made Mayleigh skeptical. Conversations? That's the problem, not the solution, she said with a nervous laugh. But Lisa encouraged her, saying, "It's not just about talking. It's about learning how to talk in a way that gets results. You'll see." The next morning, Mayleigh woke up early, determined to give the book a try. She read about techniques like starting with heart, focusing on what you really want, and creating a safe space for dialogue. She learned how to reframe her thoughts, shifting from blaming others to identifying solutions. The more she read, the more she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe she could learn to speak up without fear. Over the weekend, Lisa helped Mayleigh practice. They sat in a cafe, role-playing scenarios. Lisa pretended to be Mr. Bennett, and Mayleigh rehearsed how she would approach him. At first, Mayleigh stumbled over her words, her voice shaky and uncertain. But Lisa patiently guided her, saying, "Remember, this isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest and clear." By the end of the session, Mayleigh felt a new sense of control. She wasn't just reacting to situations anymore, she was preparing for them. When Monday morning came, Mayleigh found herself standing outside Mr. Bennett's office, her palms sweating. She reminded herself of the phrase she had practiced, "Start with heart." She walked in, took a deep breath, and said, "Mr. Bennett, I'd like to talk about how we can make project deadlines more manageable. I want to do my best work, but I think we could create a process that benefits everyone." To her surprise, Mr. Bennett listened. He nodded and said, "Let's discuss this further. I'm open to ideas." Mayleigh left his office feeling lighter, as though a weight she had carried for years had finally been lifted. Mayleigh's newfound confidence didn't stop at work. A few weeks later, at a family gathering, her aunt made another one of her passive-aggressive comments. Normally, Mayleigh would have laughed it off to avoid conflict, but this time, she calmly responded, "I know you mean well, but I'd appreciate it if we could focus on the positive things I'm working toward." Her aunt seemed taken aback but nodded, and the conversation shifted. For the first time, Mayleigh realized that standing up for herself didn't have to mean creating conflict. It simply meant setting boundaries. As time went on, Mayleigh noticed other changes in her life. She began speaking up in team meetings, offering ideas she would have once kept to herself. She started reconnecting with old friends, reaching out instead of waiting for them to call. And most importantly, she stopped doubting the value of her voice. Each small victory built on the last, creating a ripple effect that touched every part of her life. Sitting in a cafe one evening, Mayleigh reflected on her journey. She wrote in her journal, "Confidence isn't about being fearless, it's about choosing to act despite the fear. Every time I speak my truth, I grow stronger." She smiled, knowing she had taken control of her life, one conversation at a time. The power of your words can change your life. When you speak with confidence and purpose, you open doors to growth, understanding, and connection. Self-confidence isn't something you're born with, it's built, one conversation at a time. So now, let me ask you, what's one conversation you've been avoiding? Take the first step today. Speak your truth. You might be surprised by how much stronger it makes you.